This is your not so critical update for Saturday, July 10th. Today, an update on the Kaseya hack, Apple's new private relay, and another data breach, this time from Morgan Stanley. And now your hosts, Mike Sutton and Peter Lowe.
I think we need a name for that robot. We talked about this before. We'll have to figure that out. If he's our permanent intro personality, I guess we'll find out. How you doing, Peter?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm a little sun drenched today. Being out at the beach, been good. Taking advantage of the Mediterranean lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
nice and warm
slathering
out there,
myself in sun. It's great. It's nice. Wearing a lot of sun cream.
Yeah, I was out for a long ride today and didn't lotion up, but I was out pretty early in the day, so I think I was okay. I don't know.
You look like you've got a lot of color. You look very healthy, I have to say, unless that's from a sunbed or something. Which
yeah, no, spend a lot of time outside these days, training.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. So we're recording this. And what people watching the recording don't know is that it took us a while to get started. We were having some technical problems. Totally on me, getting everything set up. But I think we're good. We've got some fun stories. We've got some hilarious stories about malware hacks and $50 million ransom and security breaches. It's going to be a blast.
You won't believe number 3. It's
No, the clickbait one is number 6.
Okay, so we keep people on the hook until the juice.
I know. Like if you want to see it. Like for part 2.
Like if you like it, even.
I know. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Let's get it hooked up. But let's talk about some stories first before we start looking for validation from our audience, right? So last Saturday, we talked about the Kaseya hack. It was kind of happening at that time. It had just happened on Friday. It sounds like it's probably started around 2 p.m. on Friday. I think we found out about it around 4 or 5 p.m.
I found out about it by half past 11 my time in the evening. So I don't know.
On vacation,
what time zone. No. Well, it's the end of it was the weekend.
Yeah.
So we were, I had to jump up from the sofa and hop online to a proper computer to make sure.
And that was part of the problem for everyone. It was we think intentionally timed to be at the beginning of a long weekend to let these computers run their little encryption schemes as long as possible before anybody noticed it. And just to review, this is an attack on Kaseya, which is a popular remote monitoring and management tool that managed services providers use. Some enterprises use it for remote access, for patch management, for performance monitoring of their networks, and it was compromised.
Yeah.
And how we talked about a lot of this last time, so we don't have to rehash everything from before, but basically the on-premise servers, there's 2 hosting options. You can host it yourself, or you can use Kaseya's cloud. The on-premise servers were compromised at some clients, and it seemed like maybe there was an issue with patches that they talked about the first day. The initial reports were that the MSPs affected had not necessarily the latest patch, but I didn't hear any follow-up if that was actually part of the store, what they actually ended up finding. But the update today is more about the scope and where things stand right now. So shortly after it happened, Kaseya's said that they expect to recover and be back up and running within hours, not days or weeks. Here we are now, 8 days out, going on 9 days out, and they expect tomorrow, I think on Sunday, to be releasing the patch that they say they now have for both their cloud and for their on-prem hosted services. So nothing, Kaseya has been offline fully for the past 8 days.
Yeah, that I think is going to damage them more than anything else. There were very differing opinions on how well or badly they handled the whole thing. And I saw there was a post on Reddit which was said, "Hey, just want to say how great the Kaseya guys are doing. Really impressed with that." And like the top post was, "Are you kidding? They're a nightmare. This is awful." And then the next one is, "No, they did really well." And it was very polarized opinions. But I think the thing that will damage them most is the fact that it took them 8 days to get a patch out. Like, this is a long time to have downtime.
Yeah,
so
and it is. It's a long time, and it's a tough problem. I get it. It's a hard problem to solve. The community feedback has been interesting, though. I've seen the same post. We had this post that was posted on Twitter, and this is something you're hearing a lot of the companies come out to say now is, like, don't be too hard on Kaseya. It could happen to anyone. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Like, all these things are true. Like, that's a great message. Should have focused on it more 2 weeks ago, right? Or a year ago. And they did, to be fair. Like, I think any MSP or RMM company or antivirus company would say, yeah, we can't guarantee 100% protection from all of these threats. And everybody, I hope they're saying that. Anybody who claims perfect protection is setting themselves up for disaster. But I don't know. I have really mixed feelings about this. It feels like Kaseya's being let off the hook a lot, and I think because of the severity of the impact. So the initial report was that they thought 40 customers had been impacted, then maybe 50. Now I think they're saying 60. Some reports have been a little bit higher, but that is understating the true impact, because these are managed service providers in most cases who are supporting any number of other clients. So what Kaseya says about that is they think it's about 1,500 businesses that are affected, which is still understating things, because who knows how many employees or endpoints that these businesses have that have been affected. The Revil, the hacking group, said that they infected 1 million machines. It's probably not 1 million, but it could easily be in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I think it probably is, to be honest. I mean, the story about the Swedish co-op things, I think we talked about last week. That's a good example of
800 stores,
big 800 stores, and they've probably got 10 machines in each store at least, 10 end devices. So that's 80,000 right there. There was a state in the US that kind of went public and said, we had to shut down because of the Kaseya thing. That's going to be 10, 20, 50,000 devices across the state. So yeah, I think the million number is not that far off reality. I mean, it's in Revil's interest to overstate it, but yeah, I can easily believe it.
Bad. And then the state of the ransom demand, they had originally asked for $70 million for a universal unlock key, or the decryption key. I think they've negotiated it down to $50 million. It has not been paid as of the latest.
Who's going to pay that? So who's going to pay that?
So presumably Kaseya at this point. But
I suppose,
some individual companies have started paying ransoms to get their files unlocked, which, I mean, you can't really blame them.
No.
So who should pay it? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, don't ask me that. That's not fair. Come on now. That's a deep ethical debate about negotiating.
That's what we're
with
here
terrorists.
for.
No, I don't want to do that. No, I don't. No. I refuse to answer that question. I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's very situational. So if you're using Kaseya to do your backups as well as handle everything else, then you're basically, I'm not sure how family friendly this show is, but there are words that you should use here to describe your situation, which could not be said with kids around.
That was remarkable restraint that you just showed.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, what do you do? you're a business, especially at the end of a pandemic where things are pretty tight anyway, and a lot of businesses are on the verge of bankruptcy, and then everything goes down. You can't even restore from backups because the system which is doing the backups has been ransomware. I would definitely consider paying it. It depends on the situation. It doesn't help the whole ransomware
No.
Industry. It is an industry now.
Sure.
But
nobody wants to shoot the hostages.
Yeah, right. But if there's a pregnant girl in there, you gotta I don't know, think about it.
Wait a
Not
minute.
think about killing them. No. You see what I mean?
You just advocated. I won't say it.
Don't put, but yeah. Do you know what's funny? Something interesting that I don't think I shared with you yet is over the course of the week, somebody was talking about finding the origin of the word ransomware and the first time it was used. And the earliest usage that I looked into it as well, 2005. So there's actually, hilariously, shareware, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's software that you kind of get a limited version of, and then you get a full version, and then you're sort of asked to pay for the full version. Someone tried to use the term ransomware to describe software that would be released as open source if a bounty was paid. So Blender is a good example of this, where Blender was bought out by another company for a certain amount, and then they released the source code as open source. It didn't catch on, obviously, because ransomware means something entirely different now, but it was kind of holding the source code to ransom.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So so this whole thing has only been around for 15 years, basically.
Yeah.
And in that time, it's gone. And also some of the early uses, the ransoms were like $100 and $200 for encrypted systems. It's still the same concept, still encrypted system, get a key if you pay the money. But it's gone from $100, $200 to, in 15 years, an industry. Ransomware as a service is a thing. There's evil Russian gangs doing cyber attacks on US states and things. It's crazy.
Well, how much is your company's data worth? I mean, that's what it's going to come down to, right?
Yeah, and even if you take all reasonable precautions, it still happens. So
yeah, you mentioned the backup. If you were doing your backups with Kaseya, and they have said so Kaseya is the tool that ties everything together. I want to say that they integrate with data backup. I'm not 100% sure of that, but what I'm saying is they don't actually provide the backup. They don't actually provide the antivirus. It all just ties in with Kaseya. The problem is it was their core agent that's the one that ties all these things together that was infected. So they came out very clearly and said none of our 50 or 60 modules were affected, but so what? Like the main one that's on every computer is the one that's affected. So that's not going to help you a whole lot. But I
get access to your backups.
the other interesting thing here that I wanted to look at is so I heard somebody talking about the apartment collapse in Miami. Did you hear about that?
I did hear about it. That's shocking, terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. But what they were saying is, from a libertarian standpoint, it had been reported that some of the residents knew, and they chose to live there, and therefore accept the consequences. Yeah. And as terrible as it is, it's their own fault. And I had seen some people asking in Reddit, how long do we accept this from the security industry, that these kinds of things can continue to exist? And so you don't want to resign yourself to saying there's no solution. But if the vendors and there are reports that Kaseya knew about this threat since April and didn't fix it. The MSPs know that these kinds of threats exist. The clients presumably don't know. That's why they hire the MSPs. Is it just a reality of the world that these kinds of things are going to happen? What starts to break this down?
Well, Yeah, no, that's a good question. I don't think there is a definite firm line anywhere about this. The quote that you had on the screen earlier is about from Huntress, and it was a question that they had. Yeah, a lot of people asking if product X or product Y would have kept them safe from this ransomware attack. I don't think there's one approach, one product. It's all about layered threat protection, and lots of different things. You know, you've got to have education. You've got to have take care of the human element. You've got to take care of centralization, multiple different options. What kind of it's the same as getting robbed walking down the street. You can probably, I'm sure you could get robbed walking down the middle of I don't know what the US safe areas are. Like, what's a particularly safe place in the US? Wherever
there's some farms around here where nobody's been shot recently.
Right, there you go. But it can still happen. That's all I'm saying. But then if you go and live in some dodgy area, you're kind of upping your risk level, and you have to kind of, is that safe for you or not? Is it the if you walk down a dark alley in the middle of the night, is it your fault if you get mugged? You know, ultimately, it's the people doing the attacks.
Yeah, and it really there's definitely an education piece to it. You're breaking up a little bit, so I'm just going to jump in until your connection stabilizes.
Oh, sorry.
There's certainly an education piece of it. It's my internet connection that's unstable. Maybe you need to jump in, but I'm recording, so I win. There's definitely an education piece of it. Clients, businesses don't want to pay for the level of security a lot of times that would protect them from these kinds of problems. There are a lot of small companies, less than 100 or 200 employees. And when you start talking about what it takes with multiple layers of protection, training, antivirus, firewalls, training, just all this backups, all these different things that cost money in licensing, cost money in management, have to be actively managed, that there's resistance to paying for that. We end up with an attack like this. Companies are paying thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, potentially $50 million. But then there's probably still statistically, it's very unlikely to happen to me, so I'm probably still okay. Yeah, you got to take it seriously, man. Got to take it seriously.
You do. But but do you always? I know I hate that's come out of my mouth, but like, do you have? There's a point at which it's really not worth it. Like when you're really just starting out, just having a backup drive is probably in my book.
Sure.
Store your backups on. It's maybe enough. I don't know. I situational, and there's so many different factors that there's no one clear answer to it.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about some of these protective measures again in a minute here, but let's talk about our favorite topic, or at least the topic that we spend the most time talking about, which is data breaches.
Data breaches.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a not so critical update if we didn't have a data breach
Obviously.
to talk
about. And I'm sure there have been dozens. This one, so the two notes I had about this one were that it was a breach via a third-party vendor. So we've definitely seen that before. A company like Morgan Stanley probably takes security very seriously. However, maybe they work with other companies that don't have the resources to put into security that they do. And I think you're seeing a lot more recently. This happened in retail several times. I think Target was a big victim of this in the past. Somebody had hacked through like the air conditioning system or something, an air conditioning vendor, to get into the store systems. So the requirements to be a vendor to companies like this has definitely risen. But that's still a big risk for these companies. And then the other really, I don't know if I want to say funny, but sad part of this is that they clarified that the data that was stolen was encrypted. So that's the good news. Bad news is the hackers also got the encryption key. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's unfortunate, isn't it? It kind of defeats the purpose of encrypting it in the first place.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think one of the problems that massive organizations like Morgan Stanley have is that, so there's two conflicting things here. They want the highest level of security, and that means that they need rigorous checks and certification and kind of all those things to make sure that the people they're dealing with, the third parties, are up to scratch. But all that takes time, and that means that they're less agile, they're less able to respond to the latest zero-day exploits and stuff. And it's really hard. I think having to strike that balance between up-to-date security and a company that you can trust is tricky.
And it's both a matter of best practices and also taking it very seriously. I mean, like you said before,
and I think
the user is always going to be the biggest threat. You can only do so much to protect your systems from the people who actually have to use it.
That's true. And in an industry like security, things change so quickly that a certification that you might have in place that took 6 months to develop or 12 months to develop, and that then takes 6 months to actually certify for, is a year and a half out of date by the time that it was even started. I could talk about stuff in the DNS world. We'll come on to this thing with the Apple Private Relay in a minute, but there's technologies being produced and used which are only a couple of years old, and you can't really get certified for that kind of thing. It's just not possible because things move too quickly.
How do you protect yourself from something that's never been seen before?
Yeah, and it's even it's so recent that you can't. Yeah, go on.
Just that it's a bigger window even than 0 day, because like you said, if development on the protection started years ago, even if something was discovered 6 months ago, it's almost still 0 day at that point.
There was so just to talk about the Kaseya thing again. There was you shared this article on the Daily Mail, which I was quite shocked about, to see that the Kaseya thing had made it to the Daily Mail, and the comments, bless them, were predictably simplified, let's say, because they were just like, oh, they should do this or do that. It's from people who perhaps aren't quite as informed as they would like to think they are, proposing solutions which are, seem very simple to them. So why don't they just use X or Y? Like, it's not that simple, unfortunately. In the end.
And so I shared that because of the deadline. They had originally said they'd be back up and running in hours, not days or weeks.
Yeah.
Then they expected to have a patch release Tuesday. Now here we are Saturday. There's still no patch released. But my favorite comment to what you just said was that companies like this, instead of using Microsoft servers and SQL Server, should write their own systems from the ground up. Like you have no idea how much worse our problems would be. And how much more expensive things would be, like if every company was trying to develop their own software from the ground up. Like there would be no like that. It's insane. But
but I mean, I find it kind of adorable in a way, because they're so predictable. The comments on the Daily Mail, like, it's just something to get angry about and propose a very simple solution to. But there you go.
All right, let's take another whack at this. So what else do we have coming up here? Right to repair movement. So this is interesting. Steve Wozniak came out. I'm setting a lot of these up. I think maybe I'll let you do the next one.
You go for it.
Wozniak came out to voice support for the right to repair movement, which has been getting a lot of attention. I think there's still a lot of resistance from the powerful people who want to defend their right not to repair, because their planned obsolescence makes them a lot of money. Apple, I would say, obviously has been a cause of a lot of this, and also a target of several of the lawsuits and efforts to advance right to repair. So I think pretty important that Steve Wozniak, as a co-founder of Apple, comes out to voice his support for the movement. And part of the argument he makes is that without open source, the inventions that they came up with at the very beginning would not have been possible. And so and I think the issue is a little bit more broad even than open source. I think part of it is just the manufacturing process. There's nothing proprietary about the battery technology that says you can't replace a battery in an iPhone. It's the way the device is designed. You can't open it up without special tools or special training, versus, I think maybe iPhones have always been that way, but with Androids, you used to be able to peel off the back cover and stick a battery in. Now, I mean, are there any phones that even allow you to do that? I don't know. But then you said there's also right to repair on, what did we call it? White goods? Which is a term I never heard before.
White goods. I'm surprised. Yeah, white goods, just in case anybody else hasn't heard it, it just refers to goods that are generally white. So things like fridges and ovens. Well, I don't know much about ovens, but air conditioning units, boilers, your tumble dryer, washing machine, that kind of thing. So there's a thing in the UK, which is they're proposing a right to repair law that would mean that manufacturers of white goods would have to cover the warranty for, I think, up to 5 years, and make replacement parts available for that length of time. So they have to make it possible for other people to repair the goods and not put any barriers in the way. The controversial part of it is that it only covers white goods, and it doesn't cover things like your phone. And I've heard a lot of discussion about it, which compares that law to the situation in, I think, was it Netherlands and Sweden and some other countries which have similar laws, but they do cover other things as well. And it comes down to people who are making money from it versus people who aren't making money from it. And it's definitely two sides. There's the people who do the jobs as well, the plumbers and the repair guys and the electricians and the little mobile phone shops. They making their life easier is a good thing. And yeah, it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks.
Like, so much though, like that's where the money is. If you manufacture something, is it your right to have it closed so that nobody else can touch it? I don't know.
Okay,
Like,
yes, I think that there is a sort of fundamental right for companies to be able to do that. But there's a point at which a company gets so big that it's in the general public interest to make it a law so that they can't do that.
Is that so? Which is it?
Do
they have the right to do that, or don't they? They can do that unless they're too big, and then they can't do it. I don't. What's the logic there?
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. They when it gets to affect a sufficient number of people, then they have to be told to stop doing it. That's what government regulation is all about, right?
Yeah, I feel like I struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah.
It feels like a punishment for being successful.
Okay, here's an extreme example, right? Let's say a newspaper was printed with an ink which was harmful to people. Like, it wasn't very, it wasn't deadly, but it left you with permanent stains on your fingers when you're flipping the pages, right? Should the newspaper industry or the printing industry be forced not to use that ink, even though it's 10 times cheaper than the other one?
I mean, potentially, but it doesn't have to do with the size of the industry. I mean, you could say no matter how small a press you are, you can't do that for health reasons or whatever.
Okay.
You wouldn't wait until they get bigger.
So what you're saying is that no matter how small the industry, they should still be forced to give access to the right.
I don't know. It's tough. Like, as a consumer, obviously, I want right to repair.
Right.
If I was a repair person who wasn't, electrician, whatever, I would want to have the ability to repair. But if I'm a company and I think I can make more money without it, then maybe I don't do that. I don't know. I don't know what it should be.
I don't think it's the thing is they're deliberately going out of their way to make it more difficult to repair.
Yeah, that feels problematic.
So that Yeah, it's not like they're doing something that's kind of convenient for them. They are deliberately designing new and more difficult to access systems. An open platform is much easier to reproduce and
Yeah.
to manufacture than it is
But there are
to have
choices. There,
custom bloody chargers.
like people, iPhones have always been that way, and people have still chosen to buy them. There's competition in the market for that reason.
That's a
Huh.
I think there's a word for that. It's not a real choice though, is it? Like if you want a decent phone, there are very few real
Yeah.
choices out there. You could technically
Well,
you
that's
could go and
true
build your own
now.
phone.
That's true now. It wasn't true then. I don't know. It's a tough issue. Like it reminds me of like the social media stuff too. Like it's a problem now because of the size of the industry. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have right to repair laws. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to think through the ethics of it. How is that logically consistent? How do you balance free market and private industry versus what I want as a consumer and what I think I should be able to do as a consumer? I don't know. It's a tough one.
I see where you're coming from. I see. I know what you mean. I just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a communist at heart, and I think that the whole everybody should be like forced to serve the needs of the consumer. The free market is supposed to do that by default, right? It's supposed to work itself out, and there's supposed to be another company that comes along and actually has an open platform which is commercially successful. But yeah, it doesn't quite work that way, unfortunately.
That's the libertarian utopia that they insist is right around the corner if only the government would get out of the way.
Yeah, right. So the regulations, that's what's causing the problem.
Nonsense. All right, let's try one more. What you got?
Okay, this is sorry. So Apple Private Relay. This is really interesting for me because it's another sign of a bigger thing that I think is happening. Apple Private Relay is essentially, it can be described as a VPN or a proxy. It's a system which Apple are baking into their operating systems, which allows you to mask your activity online. So when you go to a website, you will come from various different IP addresses. It's not like a VPN in that you can't choose where you're coming from. It chooses a local IP address or something local to you. It uses a variety of different networks. I think it's they're very private about the details, as Apple always is. But I think there's been people guessing at Cloudflare and Fastly and whoever, Akamai, and it doesn't work with HTTPS connections, and that's makes sense because otherwise it would be installing a local SSL certificate, which your machine would then have to trust, and that is an issue in itself. So right now it works with plain HTTP connection, so unencrypted web traffic. It's baked into the OS. It's easy to turn on and off, and it uses a bunch of really recent technologies like oblivious DNS over HTTPS, or ODO as it's referred to, which is a series of connections, which basically means that at the end, server doesn't know where the query is coming from. So a lot of privacy preserving technology is going into this. They don't want to piss off people like Netflix by making it region locked, so you can get around region locking. And it's great. It's a really good feature that I think is, it's not perfect, but it's certainly a step in the right direction, and they've put a lot of effort into it.
And is it OS level, or did I read that it's only within certain applications?
It's on iOS, and you kind of enable it on the OS level, but it only works in Safari at the moment, and I think some of the other apps, Apple apps. So it kind of works in the background, but it's only HTTP stuff, so it's quite limited. But it's a really good step, and the article that you've got up there from, I think, Tech Radar does point out that Apple stated that even they don't know where the IP, like where the original request is coming from. It's really quite good, and they have a lot on the line reputation-wise. They're not revealing the specifics of how it's implemented on their side, but if it were ever found out that they are revealing this, logs or anything like that, then it would be a gift to Microsoft and others. So
How big a
I
limitation
love it.
is that it's only HTTP and not HTTPS? Because I mean, isn't
Well, it's
like for Google indexing, you have to be SSL secure now. Is anybody not?
true, but okay. So first of all, there's a massive infrastructure that's been put in place. So that on its own is great. This is like phase one, I would imagine. I think the next step will be, right, we've got this thing working. If you want to use it over secure connections, HTTPS, then you need to trust our local certificate, and then they'll implement the next part. It's very, very tricky to do because it's such a big scale and it's such a massive kind of thing to ask of people is for like, hey, we want to implement this really good privacy preserving thing. All you have to do is just trust us, like it's kind of yeah, it's
So
another
this is
hurdle.
just the first step.
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
And how is this related to their there's like their cookieless tracking initiative too, right? Is this part of that, or is this a different thing?
They have so many different things going on. It's great. I mean, it's really good to see. So this is what I love Apple for lots of reasons. I also hate them. It's a love-hate relationship
because they won't let you fix anything.
It's a very one-sided love-hate relationship. I think all of the emotion is coming from my side. Anyway, they are doing a lot of really good stuff to do with privacy. They're really thinking hard about it, and they're using it as a way to sell their services and products, which I think is a thing that's happening now, is that companies are being able to sell their products based on the fact that they are good for privacy. So Brave, DuckDuckGo, there's Brave Search just launched recently. There's analytics companies who are coming out with open source implementations of ways to sort of replicate Google Analytics functionality without storing IP addresses and stuff like that. So people are able to use that as a selling point because it's such a big deal these days. And Apple are kind of at the forefront. They've got this the linked data nutrition labels for the apps on the latest iOS, which is fantastic. They have these cookieless, they block third-party cookies by default in Safari. There's a guy called John Willander, if you look him up, from Apple, and the number of things on his sort of homepage about the different things they're working on is just great. It's really good, and they seem to really care about it. And I think they really care about it as a business thing because they're going to make money.
If only they would let you swap out the battery yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It is all about money in the end, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't like the privacy stuff because I'm in marketing.
Yeah.
I want to be able to track people.
Yeah.
Which I know you love to hear. Are we going to have that fight today? Is that when this happens?
No, come on. We're on the same page today. This is
okay.
We're doing well.
Okay.
We're doing well so far.
I mean, I do have mixed feelings about it. Like I like the idea of privacy, but as I've said before, I kind of don't care.
No, stop right there. I like the idea of privacy. ... There's a but coming out. Like,
yeah, no, I don't care. Ultimately, I think it's like their business model allows it though, right? They sell the devices. That's where they make their money. They don't have to worry about the advertising. Then you got Google and Facebook who make their money off the advertising. You can see why they'd be very against this. And it's like I was thinking earlier today, what would Facebook be like if their business model wasn't driven by ads? And I think the question I asked you is maybe does it end up being like how we pay for ad-free streaming now as a premium service? Do we end up paying for tracking free social media as a premium service down the road? I don't know.
Well, 2 comments. First of all, I don't think it's down the road. I think it's right here. I think that companies are. Sorry.
Let's not be hasty.
Well, I think it is here. I started using DuckDuckGo as my main search engine now, and I've actually changed my default browser to Firefox because of the stuff that's happening in Chrome and Google is just, it's a bit too far.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about that
and it's
next
a big
week.
shift because, yeah, this is something that, you know, I use a browser 10, 12 hours a day, you know, and it's a massive shift to start using something different. So I think it's already happening. The second thing is that, unfortunately, you can pay for this tracking free or privacy free or ad free experience, but your data is still being sucked up and sold to people a lot of the time, which really sucks. Spotify is a classic example. They are just the data pointer there most of the time. Even though you're paying them, you don't see the ads. The amount of data that is being stored and shared about you is remarkable.
Yeah,
I
we'd
think I'd
probably
like
see
to do a freedom of information request to
we'd probably see
Spotify
the
one
same
day.
thing. Google's cookie list tracking is, I mean, it's really more anonymized data, but they're still capturing the information. They're not just tying it. They're just not tying it to your personally identifiable information. But even there, like, studies have shown that big data can tie that stuff together. From, they have so many data points about you, they can figure out who you are, even if it's not tagged right there.
I think one of the sort of vulnerabilities in the Apple Private Relay, which is the same in any kind of VPN or proxy like this, is that if you go to a site and you're logged in, they know who you are anyway, so it doesn't matter about your IP address. It's really just one. You have to be logged out with no cookies and cookies disabled, and there have to be a whole ton of other layers. It's only just one bit of it. So, yeah, but it's a step in the right direction.
And from a marketing standpoint, we still have UTMs and we still have custom links and we still have a lot of ways to figure out where
browser
how people
fingerprinting is the horrible one.
Yeah, but like, I don't necessarily need to know who people are, but it is helpful to know how people behave and how people are interacting with the site and with the brand, and to have that information.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it's useful, but I think there's ways to do it without invading people's privacy. I think the default of sucking up every single data point that you can find is the wrong approach. I think it should be minimized. It's like, I saw a story recently about Samsung smart fridges requiring you to, because it's an Android app that runs on the Samsung thing, it requires you to grant the app access to your contacts. It's ridiculous, right? It's just a kind of like default thing that they've thrown in there, and people just click yeah, whatever, and it doesn't need to happen. It should be privacy by default, privacy by design, and that's what I hope that this whole movement is gonna help with. What I want to see is, when is the point at which these privacy preserving products and services actually have to compete on features, because that means that we've got to a point where it's really been embedded into the, you know, the industry.
I don't disagree. Like, I like that. Yes, they should compete on features. Who does though? Like, it's hard to imagine, right? Like,
okay. The good example, the best example I can give you is Brave Search, which launched recently. There's a few private search engines like Private.sh and Mojik, but the big one has always been DuckDuckGo. They said recently that they got $100 million of investment, and they have never tracked anybody from day one. They make money through ads and a couple of other things, I think, but they are a good privacy preserving search engine. But their main selling point has been that they don't track you, right? And the ads are all contextual. If you search for pizza, you get pizza ads. If you search for, I don't know, cars, you get car ads, that kind of thing. And they still make loads of money.
That makes sense.
Enough for them to get $100 million investment, right? But the main thing has always been privacy. Now there is Brave Search. Brave Search is just kind of rebounded. There was a search engine called Clicks, CLIQZ.com, which went out of business, but their tech was bought by, their tech and some of the employees was taken over by Brave. And recently they've launched Brave Search. So now there are two big search engines. Brave is pretty big, you know, they're doing really well. And there's two big ones. So there's a choice. If I want a privacy preserving search engine that's run by a big company, then I can choose one or the other. So now they're actually going to have to start fighting each other on features. And I'm quite excited about it because now it's I have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like it. So speaking of tracking, you also sent me this article, which I found to be somewhat amusing.
Oh, this is brilliant. This is Aaron Sankin from the Markup. A little while ago, he wrote an article which was all about he tried to he opened up his security, what do you call it, all the privacy protections. He turned off anything that might protect him privacy wise online, and he just allowed all the ads, gave them full access, didn't block any cookies, nothing. And it was just horrendous. This is him trying to do the opposite and actually opt out. And there's a thing called the DAA. It's an advertising industry organization, represents a whole bunch of ad tech companies, and they have a single opt out consent form that you click. Oh, opt out of this. The way it works is it's perversely it's supposed to store a cookie on your browser, which is then accessed by third parties that says don't track me. And when you turn it on, it connects to the 120 different services, and it's supposed to let them know that you have this cookie. So first of all, you have to enable third-party cookies, which is, if you don't have it turned on, then you have to open yourself up. Second of all, anybody who doesn't respect this is free to then track you as they like. And then in the end, it doesn't even work. Only 90 of the sites actually process the request. It's just a nightmare. This is the industry you work in, Mike. These are your colleagues, your
right?
peers.
Well, okay. So the first thing I wanted to say about this article is, it's what you just said. It's the industry you work in. The use of sensationalized headlines to get readers is a marketing tactic. And that's a marketing tactic that this guy seems to like, because he's not talking about the ad tech industry's tool. He's talking about a specific tool of one digital advertising platform, the Digital Advertising Alliance. So, okay, cool, whatever. He wants readers. I get it. Welcome to clickbait headlines. But go ahead and attack the rest of the industry. Fair enough. Whatever. I get it. That's how you get readers. I understand. But I will say, it was really interesting to read. He was testing this specific tool from the Digital Advertising Alliance, and it was really eye-opening, interesting to see how they wanted this to work. Like you said, to opt out, you opt out by installing their cookie that other advertisers who are already tracking you are supposed to see and then change course on. And that is an insane model. That doesn't make any sense. I don't know from a technical standpoint how else you would do it, but the way to not be tracked, like you said, is to allow third-party cookies and install another one. That doesn't make any sense at all and doesn't work. And here maybe is where I is a decent example of, I'm not going to say why I don't care, but how I think about it, because I use ad blocker. I use it for convenience though, not because I'm trying to protect my privacy. I just don't want to see the ads. It changes the page. I don't like the things shifting around, whatever. I use security tools minimally. I have never I think it's true to say, have never had a virus infection. I think that's true. And have only on a very small handful of times ever even come close to falling for a phishing attack, because I'm pretty diligent about, checking the URL before I click it, checking the headers of an email if it looks suspicious, confirming if somebody who sent me an email that looks suspicious, did they really send it? So most of the time, I mean, I would say, as best I can remember, every time I've avoided malicious software that way. Tons of people track me. Anybody who has the ability to track things online has seen me, I'm sure. It doesn't keep me from doing things that I'm not supposed to do online. And certainly there are things I've done online that I'm not supposed to do, but I've kept my computer safe. Does it expose me to identity theft or things like that? Yeah, probably. But if I have a bank account with Morgan Stanley, then it's too late anyway. What?
That's fair enough.
What's the counter argument, Peter?
I was gonna. Okay. First of all, you're right. I'm sorry. This is a bit of a clickbaity headline, and I'm sorry I didn't mean to attack you.
No, it's fine. I just I thought that was amusing. His attempt to attack the ad industry is to use a technique of the ad industry. So super minor point, it's not material at all. It's fine. Whatever. He's a writer online. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, there's a great writer who writes for Gizmodo, Shoshana Badinsky, I think. Oh God, I probably just mangled her name. And she writes for Gizmodo, and Gizmodo are just horrendous. It's like I think it's a Condé Nast publication, and their tracking stuff is horrible. So she gets asked a lot about like, why are you writing for Gizmodo if you were interested in ad tech and tracking and stuff like this? And she's just tired of it. But
did she have 5 reasons, and you won't believe number 3? Why she works for Gizmodo?
That's fair.
You gave me that joke earlier, so I'll credit you. I thought it was good.
Yeah, and by the way, I think the Digital Advertising Alliance does represent 130 different companies, ad tech companies. So it's on one level, but OneTrust is another one, which they have the cookie consent opt-out thing that you see all over the place.
It's interesting.
A lot of people use that.
What you just said made me wonder if it actually stops them from tracking you, or if it only stops them from showing you the personalized ad.
No, it's a cookie. It sets a cookie on your browser that says "Do not track." I do not consent, or I do consent.
Right, but does it actually stop? I mean, some of them are obeying it or not anyway. But does it actually? It doesn't. They're still tracking. The only way they would know if you had the cookie is if they were looking to track you. It's ridiculous. I'm not it's misleading. Like tracking in general, I'm obviously fine with. But this technique for opt-out that the DAA uses is ridiculous. Like there's no defending that. That's crazy. Like just don't have it. Yeah. Whatever. It's fine. It starts to go down the discover opt-out road that we talked about before.
The article has a really interesting bit at the bottom, which is basically that this isn't a genuine effort to prevent to allow opting out. It's just a way to say that they're complying with regulations. It's a kind of like fending off the government sort of thing.
Can I find that quote? I don't see it in here.
It's right at the bottom, I think. There's a great quote from I think a university that did a more in-depth study. And they're like, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, it doesn't do this, it doesn't work, it's terrible. People think that they've opted out and they haven't, nothing. It achieves nothing.
Yeah, this is silly. It's a good. I'm glad that they wrote the article. I think.
Yeah.
I would argue that it's more against the DAA than against the MarTech industry, but. Okay, I'll let it go. We're not going to go to war over this.
Oh, well.
I'll try not to take it personally. I'm sure Aaron's a fine person.
He is. He's a good guy.
All right, so we've got a couple fun articles left, but if you want to see them, you have to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
That's right.
That's how we make it happen.
Subscriber only content.
Yeah, if you want to see it, like for part 2, That's how it works, right? Like for part 2.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Is
where
that
we are.
how it works? I don't know. What's the next step, please? Because there's a couple.
We're just gonna keep going through the.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. If that's all right.
Just subscribe to the channel, like the video, help us out. How many more do you want to do? We got a couple up here. This one you were pretty excited about.
I think. Oh, I love this so much. I love it. I love it. It's so cool. Can you do me a favor and right click and open that in new tab? And I want to see this in all its full glory. That image. Yeah. This is the Belgian police with anti-drone weaponry. And it makes me feel like I'm living in a sci-fi book. I love it so much. One of them, and this is another just magical thing about the whole thing. One of those devices, I think it's the one that the guy that's holding it up to the air, is a kinetic weapon, which I guess basically shoots something out to take down drones. And the one which the lady is holding there, the big old, I don't know, is a non-kinetic weapon, which I again, I don't know the exact details, but I assume it interferes with how the drone is being controlled, which is just brilliant in so many ways. We're living in the future.
Yeah, and it really was just the size and appearance of these guns that stood out. Like that just seemed remarkable.
Yeah. It's excellent. It's
just a lot of fun.
Excellent.
We don't know how the technology works. Presumably it's effective, but it's really cool. Is the bottom line.
That's basically it. That's it.
Yeah. So that's what
drones, man. They're having to protect against drones. That in on its own is brilliant.
Yeah. And I think what it shoots is a net, and I've seen other guns that do that. And I get why you would do it, especially around. I think this is at an embassy, right? So I totally understand why you would do that. It's just it does look very sci-fi. They look like they're waiting for aliens to show up.
That's why I love it. Yeah.
We talked about aliens last
30
time.
years ago when I started reading sci-fi. Yeah. 30 years ago when I started reading sci-fi, this kind of stuff was in the books I was reading. And now it's real. It's like my childhood dreams come true. It's amazing.
Yeah. I don't see many drones around here, but I still kind of feel like I need one of those guns.
Yeah, I'll take one.
Just in case. Who knows? All right. And similarly, this one was just kind of fun. I don't know how new this is. I feel like I'd seen something like this before, but it's basically. Go ahead. This one is yours too.
Yeah. So this is great. It's an art project which links cities in Lithuania and Poland. It's a big old camera, two-way camera that you can look through and see other people in real time in the other place. And it's just fantastic. As an art project, it's just like putting it there and seeing what happens and how people use it, which I love. And I wish there was more of this in the world where people are doing things to find out how people react. And there's, in the little video on the BBC, there's stuff about people dancing and holding up signs and holding up babies, and the babies are waving to each other and stuff. And yeah, I love it. I love it. So much.
It is pretty cool to like in real time see somebody so far away and engaging with them. If only there was a way to do that.
And it's
now.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It was a conscious decision not to include audio as well.
We should try that.
Which I think was interesting. What, just do a silent one? We should, hold up signs to each other to the whole podcast with like, yeah, great.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it seems like a better idea than in an application. It probably actually doesn't even sound like a very good idea. I shouldn't have said anything. Never mind. I retract it.
It's okay. No, now I'm thinking about it. Now I'm wondering whether we could get away with
Oh,
5 minutes
now
of
it's
like
a project.
miming.
We're gonna do charades for the.
Yeah. All right.
How do you say charades? Do you say charades or do you
Charades?
Charades. That's what I was guessing.
I would say. I don't know now. I don't know. I don't think I've ever actually played it.
Asked what? Oh, that if you've ever played it, you really haven't played it?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
My
wow.
family weren't like that. We didn't play those kind of games. Just,
I feel like we should get into that
Actually,
deeper, but we're trying to probably move towards wrapping up here. Let's see. Do we have one more? We do have one more. You submitted a bunch of fun ones today. This is pretty cool. I didn't totally get it at first.
Yeah. Oh, really? This is just augmented reality. It's brilliant.
Well, I guess what I didn't get, I thought it,
tech guy,
I didn't get that it was the actual video. Can I play it here? So in real time, they're displaying different ads against a blank background, depending on what market you're in watching it.
I was trying to, I studied this very carefully, and I don't think they're all blank. I think one of them is, I don't know if is there one blank background? Or is it that they've superimposed a blank background on one of them? I couldn't figure out if there's one real one and the rest of it's like changed, or if there's like a green screen. Well, obviously not green screen. It would be the whole pitch would be an ad then, but like a color. I don't think it can be one particular color that they're replacing.
Yeah. It would be kind of a waste to not show ads to everybody in the stadium. You probably wouldn't want to give that up.
Right. So yeah, good point.
But it's like they do on they do on football fields, where American football fields, where they draw the yard lines and the first down marker and all that on the field in real time on TV. Obviously, that's not actually on the field. I'm sure similar technology here.
I guess, yeah. I don't really know how it works, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool that they can do it in real time.
Like, I used to understand how all this tech worked. My Oculus did it to me as well. I think I said to you when I got it, like, I love it, but it's essentially magic. I have no idea how it works. I don't know how you can. It's so accurate, and so the latency is so low. I can put it on and it will show me where the controllers are without actually connecting to them. Like, how does it know where they are? It's magic. I do not understand this.
So when this goes too far is when you specifically are streaming this and it's showing you an Oculus ad on that background.
Yes. Yeah, because some AI has been watching this podcast and it's heard me talking about the Quest, so it knows that I'm interested in that. It's trying to pitch the latest games at me.
And calling you by name. Peter, go play Oculus.
Yeah.
What?
It's Minority Report. We've got anti-drone tech.
Everybody's seeing this?
Why not?
All right. We got through all our articles. We started late, so I don't actually know how long we've been going. I'm guessing it's around an hour.
I think it's about, I don't know.
I'll try to make sure we start on time next time. The audience doesn't care. It's just for you and me, but I'll do what I can.
Brilliant.
Any plans for the rest of the weekend?
Well, what are we on? I've already lost track of days. I'm on Saturday, so more beach tomorrow, and then some World of Warcraft.
And beach for you is basically just walking out the back door, right?
It's a little further than that, but it's not far. It's pretty close. So just down the road, it's nice. That's why I live in the country. Like why I live in Malta.
Our closest beach is an Atlantic Ocean beach in New Jersey, and that's not something I'm interested in it.
But you have some beautiful countryside. That's what I'm missing.
Yeah,
you have some places you go for really long, good bike rides, and I envy you that because I miss it.
I don't know. I would trade it for a nice blue beach. Lived in Hawaii for a couple years. I would 100% go back there.
Well, my first question is, why don't you then?
Super expensive to live in Hawaii. Plus, my wife's family.
Oh, okay. Well, that's always
his son goes to college here. We're pretty settled in.
When are you coming to visit, man? Like, you gotta hop on a plane.
I would, I'm not a big international traveler. We can talk about that some other time, but
All right.
I don't travel a lot. I like it.
You
Lockdown
should.
has been awesome. Like I can just stay home. I had a group that they moved to virtual during the lockdown and now are saying like, oh, we're all excited. We can go back to our regular meeting location. I'm thinking, I don't know. Maybe, are we sure we can't just stay on Zoom?
I know how you feel. I know how you feel. We're discussing moving to the missus and I are discussing moving to Gozo, which I don't know if I told you about this. Like, so Malta is an archipelago. It's got Malta the island, a little tiny island called Camino, and then Gozo, which is sort of the countryside of Malta, like Malta the country. It's the boondocks. There's like 20% of the population lives up there. It's all spread out. It's a lot quieter. There's not so much construction work going on. It's people are more friendly over there, and it's cleaner as well. But there isn't the nightlife. There isn't the kind of it's not so busy. It's not like the big city. There's only 500,000 people in the whole of the country, but still. And we're discussing moving there, and everybody's like, "Oh, why do you want to go there? It's so lonely." But like, we don't really socialize that much anyway, so we're not going to be missing a whole lot. Like, yeah, exactly. So
why do you want to stay here? It's so crowded.
Yeah, I have like 6 construction sites around us.
Yeah,
which I really want to get away from.
Well, if anybody is stuck with us this long, we'd appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it. We'll be back again next week.
If anybody's stuck with us this long, I would like to like and subscribe to them.
Yes.
That's my message.
We will absolutely do that, which means you have to leave a comment to tell us where to find you.
Yeah.
I'll like and subscribe too.
Yeah.
We're all in. It'll be fun. All right. Fun show today. I know I've kept you up late today, Peter. I appreciate you sticking with me. I'm glad we got through this. We had some fun articles today. We will be back again next week.
Always brilliant.
All right.
Cheers,
see everyone next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.